When we want to improve our songs, there are three basic places to look: our lyrics, our melody, and our chord progression. So in this video, we're going to talk about three simple ways to improve your chord progressions. Let's talk about it. The first simple way to improve your chord progressions is simply to actually utilize 2 and 3 chords. Too often, I think songwriters just stick to the 1, 4, 5, and 6 chords. And this is sort of bared out in a hook theory study where they found that so many songs use the 1, 4, 5, and 6. Basically, every song will use those, but many songs don't use the 2, and then even more songs don't make any use of the 3 chord. And when we're wanting to improve our chord progressions, it makes sense that the first place to look is to see, are we actually utilizing all of our diatonic triads? More specifically, we want to make sure that we are utilizing all the major and minor diatonic triads at our disposal. And let's use a major key as an example. In every major key, there are 7 diatonic triads. There's the 1, 4, and 5, which are going to be major. And then there's the 2, 3, and 6, which will be minor, and the 7, which is diminished. And in so many songs, and with so many songwriters, I think there's a lot of consideration for the 1, 4, and 5 major chords, and then the 6 minor chord. But there's 2 other minor chords occurring in every major key that very often we don't even think to use. So really fast, just to make sure that we understand what a 2 and 3 chord is, let's talk about C major. In C major, our 1 chord would be C major, our 2 would be D minor, and E minor would be our 3. Our 4 would be F major, G major is our 5, and then we have A minor as our 6, and then we have B diminished as our 7. So very often, songs written in C major will just use 1, 5, 6, 4, 4, 5, 6, 1. They just use those over and over and over again. But we can also make use of that D minor. Do something like that. Our 2 chord to our 5 to our 1. Or we can use our minor 3 chord, go from E minor to F major to C major. There are many other ways, of course, to utilize these chords. Basically an infinite number of ways to utilize them, but those are 2 easy examples of how you could implement them in your song. Second simple way to improve your chord progressions is actually to not change your chord progressions at all, but utilize inversions. If you don't know, an inversion is basically just having any note from the chord be the lowest note in the chord other than the root note. For a C major chord, by default in the bass, you would have C, that would be root position. But then you can have an inversion of a C major chord where the third of the C major chord, the E, is actually in the bass. Or you could have second inversion, which has a G in the bass. And these 3 are technically all C major chords, but they don't sound exactly the same. An inversion changes the sound character of a chord. So just considering a different inversion other than just the default root position can be a great way to go and improve your chord progressions without actually having to learn any new chords at all. In fact, if all you know are your diatonic triads, so you just know the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 chords, just by adding inversions, you essentially triple your chord toolbox immediately. Because now instead of just having 1, 1 chord, you have the 1 in root position, the 1 in first inversion, and the 1 in second inversion. Same with 2, 3, 4. And we could go on, but you essentially went from 7 chords to 21 chords. Technically, it's still just 7, but as far as the character of the sound and songwriting, you certainly get more like 21 different sounds instead of 7, because this and this and this just don't sound like the same chord. And also, it should be noted that it can be really powerful to be able to change the tone of a chord while not actually changing it harmonically at all. What I mean by changing it harmonically at all is the notes technically are the same. So when it comes to what the singer is singing or the other parts in the song, there's essentially no difference because it's still just a C major chord between root, first, and second inversion. So harmonically, it's the same. You could sing over any of those the same exact melody equally easily, but we can change the tone of the chord just by changing the inversion. Taking something like a 1 chord to a 4 chord, that sounds different than technically same chord progression. Right? Because this sort of has that nice little walking up bass line compared to this. So even though it's the exact same two chords. Just by changing the inversion of one of the chords, we change the sound character. And idea number 3, again, super simple, but it's literally just to add a note to a chord. You may or may not know what an add chord is, but it really is just as simple as take a chord and then add a note to it. So you can take a chord, let's say C major, and then just add a 6 to it, which in C major, if we're adding a 6, we mean 1 would be C, so 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we'd be adding an A to a C major chord. Just by adding a note, we change the sound character pretty dramatically. Or we could have an add 2, which is usually referred to as an add 9. That, again, sounds very different than this. This is kind of vanilla sounding. This has some dissonance to it. It's not super dissonant, but it has something a little more intriguing. Or we could have an add 4, otherwise known as an add 11. There are so many different ways to go. You could even see a 7th chord as a special type of add chord, but really just thinking about, okay, I have this chord. Maybe it's a chord that's made up of a C, an F, and a G, which would make this a C sus4 chord, or just a C sus chord. But then we could be like, you know what? And I'll add a 6 too. Or maybe I'll add a 2. That's interesting. Or maybe I'll add a 7. And each one of those just added one note. So you can take any chord you have and just add another note to it, see how it sounds. This can be a very simple way to make your chord progressions more interesting. In fact, this connects to a huge theme that I see over and over and over again in songwriting. Very often you will be very rewarded for seemingly subtle changes, because subtle changes sort of snowball and can make radical changes. This is why, even though keys are pretty limited, there's like 7 notes in any major or minor key. 7. We have millions of songs all built off of the same 1, 5, 6, 4 chord progression, and it doesn't matter because there's so much variety to music. We can apply that to things like chord progressions, just taking something really simple like having a chord progression and having one chord in it, use an inversion, or just have an added note. Instead of a regular G major chord, we actually have a G major with that added 4, which would usually be referred to as an add 11. And even though that seems like a small change, and it really is, it actually is something that over the course of your song makes a huge difference to the sound. So a little goes a long way with your chords. Actually utilizing the 2 or 3 chord instead of ignoring them, as many songwriters do, probably accidentally, can go a long way. Simply utilizing inversions instead of ignoring them can go a really long way. And it also can go a really long way just thinking about, okay, I have this chord and this chord and this chord. What if I just add a note to that chord? Ooh, okay, that makes it extra spicy. What about... So that all of a sudden got way more interesting. So don't take for granted that even tiny changes to one chord in a progression can go a long way, especially if you make one seemingly inconsequential change to each chord in a progression, or 2 of the chords out of the 4 chords in a progression. That can make a radical difference over the course of your song. And as we showed here, it doesn't have to be complex either. In fact, a lot of the best chord changes are really simple ones. So if you found this helpful, be sure to grab my free keys cheat sheet. It breaks down all of the main chords, aka main triads that you have in every key, as well as all the notes you have in every key, because this is going to be important. If you know that you are writing a song in the key of C major and you want to add a note to your C major chord to make it more interesting, you are in 99% of cases going to want to add a note that still is in the key. So it's important to know there is no F sharp in that key, but there is an F natural in that key, because whatever key you're in, if you're adding notes to it, you want to make sure that you are adding notes that are in the key, but of course aren't already in the chord. You don't want to just add random notes that aren't even in the key unless you know what you're doing. That can be made to work, but most of the time you want to add notes that are actually in the key. So be sure to check that out. Breaks down every single key, every single note in every single key, and every single one of the main 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 chords, the triads of every key as well. songwritertheory.com/keys. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate every single one of you. I'll talk to you in the next one.